Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, we are in Las Vegas for the GM meetings. It's hot stove season in a sense. Free agents can actually sign, trades can be made. All that good stuff. There's nothing big has happened yet, but this is where the groundwork is laid. You and I like to say that, we come to the GM meetings and it kind of sets us up for what we kind of plan for the entire offseason. I guess we had our first, chat with Jed Hoyer of the GM meetings, really of the offseason outside of that, the season wrap up. And I guess what stood out to me was, we ask about the budget, we ask about money. He's not going to give us exact answers there, but unlike it felt like last season, immediately it was like, don't waste your time on the big money free agents. That's almost you got that vibe immediately talking to Jed last year. This year, very different. And I'm not saying that, they're going to be aggressive at the top of the market, but him not shooting down those ideas and then quickly answering a question about qualifying offers, guys with qualifying offers. A lot of times, at minimum, you can kind of read him, right? It's like he's hemming and hawing, thinking about how he should answer that question. He said, no, that's not going to be a hurdle, essentially, in signing a guy. That's not something that they're overthinking. I think that's interesting, and it's pitching. He was very clear about that. Pitching is, their focus right now, and they're going to be active. And I don't know if I'd use the word aggressive, but active was a word we heard multiple times between both Jed and Carter Hawkins.
Jed put it this way, right? The Cubs could go play a game tomorrow if they had to, particularly on the position player side, meaning they have to get better on the pitching side. That was kind of a direct quote from him. And I had the same reaction when you asked Jed that about the qualifying offer, because oftentimes a lot of the best free agents are attached to those qualifying offers. And normally you get kind of a Jed wince or like a Jed turning his head to the side and squint and think about it. And this is not an issue, which, I was surprised at how quickly he just went there. I thought there might be it's baked into every calculation, yada, yada, yada. This was okay. And there are lots of interesting pitchers attached to qualifying offers. And the fact that, I don't want to read too much into body language or tone of answers, but we've been to enough GM meetings and winter meetings when you know that the Cubs are handcuffed, that you can hear whispers, you can see how they carry themselves. Obviously, Jed and Theo for a long time were used to kind of being major players at these meetings, the ones who were involved in the biggest deals, that they had their hands in all sorts of potential blockbusters. And at a certain point there, after the 2016 World Series, they were much stuck, just kind of hanging around the hotel suites, not really sure what they can do, or just kind of crossing their fingers to see if they could trade someone to open up something else. This is pretty close to a blank canvas, and I think they definitely feel that energy now.
Yeah, I was talking with another writer, a non-Cubs writer, and just talking about is it hard when your team doesn't do anything? He was trying to understand, like, I'm so bored with my team that I'm covering, and I was thinking, like, after that 2018 season when they really stopped going hard after free agents, it gets kind of tough in the off season. It's like you're chasing down Daniel Descalso free agency rumors, and great guy, but not the most exciting free agent to decide. So this is like, and they're obviously the Tucker trade last year made it an exciting offseason, but there were no, like, we knew that like shopping at the top was not happening. So it at least makes our jobs a little bit more fun of trying to chase down, well, okay, maybe they are interested in these guys that we had kind of been like, okay, they make sense, but will the Cubs go there? And I wouldn't go too far. Uh, Framber Valdez, Dylan Cease, they fit the Cubs really well. They make a lot of sense for the Cubs, both for different reasons. Dylan Cease has the stuff and swing and miss capabilities the Cubs uh, lack. That front office doesn't have. I mean, that rotation doesn't have that. Um, Framber Valdez, he strikes guys out at a decent rate, but he's ultra consistent, pitches a ton of innings, uh, and he gets a ton of ground balls. You put that in front of the Cubs defense, it makes a ton of sense. Like that's a Cy Young contender immediately. I think the drawback with Framber Valdez is this is a guy that like he's pitched deep into October every year. He's pitched a ton of innings and he's in his 30s. Like, do the Cubs want to give up a draft pick and give 6 years to that guy, 5 or 6 years? Start to wonder, like, that doesn't sound very Cubs like. Dylan Cease, Dylan Cease really sounds like it sounds like a fit. Again, are the Cubs going to set the market for this guy? That's where I start to pull back. But when you start looking at everything, I mean, there are opportunities for them to go big with pitching, and I don't think, uh, unlike years past, I don't think we'll be surprised if they reel in a pretty big name, or spend aggressively. Do they hand out 4 of those contracts? No, one. I don't think it's going to shock anyone.
Yeah, I mean, another name out there, Tatsuya Amai. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but a younger pitcher coming over from Japan. And, Cubs officials, while not talking directly about Amai, acknowledge that they feel like they have a competitive advantage there, that there are fewer teams operating in that space. They have an infrastructure to help those players succeed on the field, as well as a support system to help them assimilate off the field. We've heard the Cubs kind of involved or planning to be involved in that area with Amai. And really, there's a bunch of interesting players out there that they're going to have to kind of continue to dig in on. Ranger Suarez, Zach Gallen, Michael King. There's a lot of good pitchers out there that, everyone needs pitching, but not everyone can, meet, every player's wish list. And so I think the Cubs are pretty good, well positioned here. I'm with you. I think we're going to hear them and Framber a lot. I just don't know if they'll go max out for a guy in his 30s. And this actually kind of leads into our next segment on Shota Imanaga. Like, you look at the age of these pitchers, that's why I think Amai will make a lot of sense for the Cubs. Dylan Cease as well, kind of has youth on his side, durability stuff. And even though the Cubs have changed a lot since he was drafted and in the minor leagues, like, he made a really good impression on people in the organization in terms of his, pitching IQ, his willingness to embrace, his rehab process or some of the new technology they had coming online at that time. Like, I think that's part of why you see this energy from the Cubs front office of knowing they have a good team coming off first playoff trip. The president not being on the hot seat anymore in a lame duck year. I think all of those things gives them this ability to sort of like take a step back, be, even more precise with what they want to do.
Exactly. I mean, pitching is the focus. We kind of felt that way starting in the playoffs and through the playoffs. That was the vibe we're getting. And I don't think Jed Hoyer could be any clearer than he was when we spoke to him, that remains the focus and the priority. let's take a quick break and talk about Shota Imanaga, because that's someone that obviously could have bolstered their pitching depth, and right now we'll see what the chances are of him returning to Chicago.
This episode of FT is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. Give me an example in Pennsylvania, Kratz.
Right down the street from my house, the Tap House. Not only is it an awesome place to hang out, get your beers, get your drinks, whatever it is, but you know what? The company has the simplicity of Square, and they give back to the community with 10% of all the proceeds that they bring in going back to community projects.
I love it. Sports and sports bars are so good at bringing together local communities, and you can actually take this ad as an excuse to go support your local spot and have yourself a day or a weekend in the neighborhood. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. These businesses are what make the neighborhood the neighborhood. So visit square.com/go/foul to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. Again, that's square.com/go/foul to learn more.
Welcome back to Northside Territory. Patrick, Shota Imanaga, the last we recorded, I don't believe the Cubs had offered him the qualifying offer yet. It kind of, I guess we weren't 100% sure on that at the time, but obviously it's been offered. The question now is, does he accept it? It would be around $22 million. Am I right on that?
Yep.
So, nearly recouping all of what he would, that 2-year option would have been for him, that like $8 million short of that 2-year option. Right now, the vibes are, it doesn't sound like, that he's definitely picking that up. But, things can change in the next couple of days. What have you been hearing as you're walking around the lobby and at the Cosmopolitan out here in Vegas?
Yeah, getting a lot of steps in of just randomly wandering the casino floor and the lobbies and the, coffee shops and restaurants here. Jed Hoyer did make his first public comments about the Shota decisions, and he insisted there's no hard feelings, no bad blood on either side, saying the door is open for Shota to return. Obviously, the Cubs are comfortable with paying Shota a really big number for one season because of who he is as a person and a pitcher. And also, look, this front office loves flexibility, and that the old baseball saying of like there's no such thing as a bad one-year deal kind of applies in this case. The Cubs viewed Shota's third year on that option as a sticking point. And so that's kind of if he does return, I'd imagine it would be either on the qualifying offer or if they somehow came up with a 2-year structure. But obviously, Shota's betting on himself here and thought that he could beat 2 years and a little over $30 million. I think, when he came over from Japan, there were several teams interested. None of them really jumped out the way the Cubs did. And even the Cubs kind of benefited from Shota just being in the area, training in the Chicagoland area. And so, that initial group of teams from his previous posting experience would be the Red Sox, Giants, Padres, Astros. And that's just kind of the start of what you would think would be a logical group of teams that could sort of circle back here. Shota went to the Cressy Sports Performance Facility in Florida shortly after the season ended to get into their pitch lab, get a updated set of data to be made available to teams and maybe allay some concerns and answer some questions about what happened in the second half of this year. As we record, I think there's maybe a little under a week before Shota has to make the decision on the qualifying offer. And, his camp will be using the rest of these GM meetings the next several days to gauge that market and see what else is out there.
Yeah, I mean, you look at we don't know what the market is like yet. We just we don't have a great feel for things until a couple deals are signed, and then you have a little bit better idea. Okay, pitching's going to be expensive. Pitching, maybe there are some deals to be had. Whatever. And last year, a month, about a month into everything is when the Cubs signed Matthew Boyd, and that was 2 years. I want to say it was 2 years, 29. And this is a guy coming off like 40 innings pitched or something like that. And he looked great. He looked really good. But whatever's going on with Shota, some team you'd have to think they know what he can do when he's at his best. He's gone to Cressy. He has all this data. Whatever's going on there, there's going to be. I think you kind of nailed this early on, but there's going to be some team that looks at him, looks at those numbers, looks at that data, and says, "We have the guys that can help him. We know what needs to happen. We can help you, Shota. We can get you back to who you were in 2024." Whatever that may be, there's going to be some group that believes, 235 is a deal or something like that. That's just my guess. When you look at how, 3, 4, 5 years, yeah, maybe Shota's not getting that, but can he beat the 2-year option? I think is how you ultimately look at that. The option that he declined, can he beat that? I think there's a decent chance when you consider how hard it is to get pitching. Now, the qualifying offer does gum things up. Matthew Boyd didn't have that, so maybe that's part of it. It is something that teams consider. It's not a small thing. So that does, we'll see how big that market is. If it's those teams you mentioned, those aren't, teams that are generally afraid to spend. So I don't know. It feels like there's enough of a market that maybe, we shouldn't expect him to accept that, and he may move on. But I also understand the point of view that, where Jed's coming from of the door is not closed. Like, he could, on a reasonable 2-year deal, I think that makes a lot of sense for the Cubs. He's comfortable there. They're familiar with him. He's familiar with them. Maybe there's some value to that if they feel like they can get on the same page with everything.
Yeah, with the way the Cubs operate, given the success Shota had in Chicago, when there's still time for this stuff to develop, I don't like to kind of rule anything in or out. I mean, that's not how the Cubs roll. They want to keep their options open all the time and not make any decisions until the last possible second. I will say that Shota is a proud, competitive individual who feels like he has something to prove. He's someone who's shown that he's very open to new environments and being challenged and wanting to conquer the next thing. And maybe that is somewhere else. It's been really a great partnership outside of disappointing September/October. It's still kind of hard for me to process how quickly this happened. We're on. We try to stay on top of things. I vividly remember being in San Francisco in late August and Counsell being asked about Shota, and he gave this amazing quote about how it's time to stop. We went through all these questions of how is he going to respond to this, or how is he going to adjust to that, and that Shota has continually proven himself as a competitor, a thinking man's pitcher. And then September, a couple bad starts. Maybe he loses a little bit of confidence. I think the thinking is that his mechanics were slightly off after that hamstring injury in the middle of the season. And so, we know Shota as a reason to watch Cubs games. His starts were events there for a while. I think you see the Imanaga jerseys at Wrigley Field. He brought some charisma to that group. And, when I asked Jed Hoyer how that factors in, he said everything factors in, but not super heavy, I think was the term that he used. His obligation, his job is to field the best team possible within the, budgetary constraints of the franchise, as well as like the parameters they set as a baseball operation groups on terms of how they allocate years and dollars. And that did not line up. That 3-year option didn't line up for the Cubs, and Shota very quickly responded with saying, well, I'm going to opt out too then. So it'll be, I don't know, I'd imagine we'd probably get some resolution here that maybe he would be one of the earlier signers, but that's just me guessing. Because as we've seen in the past, some of these qualifying offer guys, if they decline it, that draft pick compensation could be a real drag on their market, and they're lingering out there a lot longer than anyone.
Yeah, if they have a good feel for the market and know what, you're right. Like, you don't want to linger out there. You want to have a feel for the market and kind of have something close or a good idea of where you'd like to, some options at least. I do I agree with you on it's been a swing of emotions, and how do you feel about Shota Imanaga? And it's happened so quickly that I feel like I haven't really I don't feel strongly about it, because I just it was too drastic of a change. It went from like you said about what Counsell was talking about, you trusted this guy implicitly to get the job done and work through things and get through any difficult moments, to wow, he really got lit up and looked off, and both physically and mentally, nothing seemed right there. But an off season of reset, get the lower body feeling right and strong. Who knows? He could look just like 2024 for another year or two. I do think age is a factor, and that it makes a lot of sense why they declined the 3 years. We'll see. We'll see what type of pitcher Shota Imanaga becomes. If it's, especially if it's elsewhere, we're going to be keeping an eye on it, because is it was this the mistake that the Cubs made, or did they evaluate this right, and are they good enough to continue to bring in pitching and get through seasons with maybe not the biggest of names, but solid pitching? It seems to they always seem to outperform expectations with their pitchers. A lot of that has to do with their defense. Maybe some of it has to do with the way Wrigley's played, but that is something that the Cubs have succeeded at. And like we started this out with, it may not just be lesser known pitchers. We'll see where the Cubs end up. This could be a fun offseason. It could be an interesting offseason. There could be a big signing. And if and when it comes, it'll be on the pitching side. I think we just need to continue to hammer that, because I do think some people saw the offense struggle at times down the stretch and in the postseason at times. Kyle Tucker is a free agent. Jed Hoyer just didn't seem eager to talk about building around the offense or adding anything significant there. So I think that's going to be an area where they'll be opportunistic, as they like to say, and then work around the edges, and our focus remains pitching. We'll continue to dig in and see what other information we get out here in Vegas. We'll wrap up the GM meetings later this week with another episode. But thanks so much for listening, everyone, to Northside Territory. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks, everyone.